Now it is time for our keynote speaker, Dario DiBattista, who is a peer of all of us, and if I can break from script a little bit, saved us because our original keynote speaker that we had booked got stuck in New York because of all the storms, and Dario stepped up, and you'll see he is quite fearless, and is here talking to all of you today. So, Dario is a combat veteran of the United States Marine Corps. In addition to being the editor of the anthology Retire the Colors, Veterans and Civilians on Iraq and Afghanistan, he has written about military and veteran topics for numerous publications. Dario has worked in higher education, including residence life, adjunct faculty, and student affairs for over 15 years, while also working as a creative writing instructor for the Veterans Writing Project. He is a candidate within the Doctor of Education program at Frostburg State University, where he is studying higher educational leadership. He also asked me to plug that he is hiring an assistant director. So if you would like to move to Maryland, please see him after his talk. And also just a very gentle warning for content. This talk will contain difficult topics and themes, so if you do need to excuse yourself at any time, please do. We all know this is a judgment-free zone. Without further ado, Dario.
That's me. As you just heard, hello, my name's Dario. I'm going to tell you my story. It's ultimately a tale of accidents and unexpected things. For instance, yesterday morning, I accidentally became a keynote speaker. I used to be in the Marine Corps 15 years and 40 pounds ago. You might know the motto of the Marine Corps as Semper Fidelis, which means always faithful. Well, those of us who wore the Eagle Globe and Anchor might have said differently. Some would say it's actually Semper Gumby, or always flexible. I didn't actually accidentally join the military, but I didn't expect to be a Marine. I wanted to join the Army, but I thought I'd do my due diligence and speak to the other services. Imagine me, minus 80 pounds, 6 inches shorter, mop top, tie-dye t-shirt, walking up to a Marine recruiter for more information. He thought it was very funny too. He gave me a card and said, "Only give me a call if you think you have what it takes." I successfully enlisted a few weeks later because I don't like jerks. I signed up for the Marine Reserves because I wanted to serve part-time so I could be in school. I knew literally nothing about the military and how it works. I thought I'd go down to boot camp in Paradise Island and give it the old college try, and if it didn't work out, I'd just go home. Some of you have been to this sunny location will remember a phrase from your drill instructors that says, "The quickest way off this island is to graduate." Oh shit, guess I'm gonna be a Marine. That's me, Marine Corps graduate, Private DiBattista, ready for more training and then college. There's a very brief interactive section, and I promise I won't get offended if you say 1980, but any guesses when this photo was taken? This photo was taken on August 24th, 2001. At Marine combat training, 2.5 weeks later, our captain gathered us up to talk about an attack on America. The Twin Towers, the Pentagon, a downed plane. I thought he was lying, especially because for us, nothing changed. The captain gave a speech and we just kept training. After a night land navigation course that evening, I stood near one of the personal vehicles that one of the Navy medical personnel brought to the field. They had on their AM radio and coverage of 9/11 was being discussed. It was a War of the Worlds first time broadcast moment for me. Was this real? 17 years old, suddenly destined for war. Truly, honestly, scared to go. I knew I'd be in Afghanistan soon. Psych, That's me in Kuwait on the first day of the start of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, less than 2 years later. After a surface-to-surface missile with a massive warhead defied our Patriot battery missiles and hit our base. A towering plume of smoke ripped out of the earth ahead of me when it struck. We hunkered in an underground bunker for hours, assuming we'd been exposed to chemical agents. I was afraid out of my damn mind, but pretending that I wasn't. After a historical race to Baghdad, just 7 weeks later after this photo, the mission was accomplished. Cool, let's go home. Proud of what we did. Psych, again. After returning to the US in July, I was headed back to Iraq less than 6 months later, this time as a nation builder, a civil affairs Marine. We were told we were going to somewhere called the Al-Anbar province, where we'd be handing out soccer balls, shaking hands, winning hearts and minds. But after the shameful Abu Ghraib scandal, political misstep after the invasion, and the Blackwater contractors being hung and burned, there wasn't too much nation building going on. After the first Battle of Fallujah and surviving mortar, rocket, and sniper attacks while trying to resupply hospitals or when escorting humanitarian convoys into the war-torn city, I wound up as a combat replacement for the tactical civil affairs team attached to 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. During the morning of my first day with 37, they held a memorial ceremony for Corporal Dunham, who died days after being wounded. Corporal Dunham, in close quarters battles, took off his helmet and jumped on it over a grenade to protect his fellow Marines. He earned the Medal of Honor for those actions. I couldn't believe how quickly the day returned as normal after the ceremony. Just like during the day of 9/11 at combat training, the day had to go on. The war had to go on. Every day with this unit felt like a macabre lottery to me. Many Marines died for no good reason in firefights, by IEDs while driving around, or by sniper fire. Some had bullets graze their helmets or shoot a button off a sleeve. Some got tiny shrapnel shards in their butt, and others lost limbs. I walked away unscathed while one of our team members who stayed behind was killed by a suicide bomber. When I came home from those 2 tours, my mind was a very fractured space. I didn't know why, but I knew that I didn't feel right. I knew that I liked to drink a lot to mute my anxiety and mind. Somehow I didn't feel alone. Even though as a Marine reservist, the realities of my life had me going from nation builder in Fallujah to server at Chili's. The restaurant industry is a space for lots of broken people. I just thought it was a normal part of being in your 20s because I got little to no education about PTSD and mental health from the Marines. Those first months back, yet another buddy died over there. I remembered the last time I saw him. I traced my finger on his newly penned private first class chevron because I was proud of him. I saw his mom at his funeral. I looked into her eyes and observed the vacancy that has never left me. There's no glory in a meaningless death. Over the years, more friends died. Those days, I was failing at everything. I was in constant state of hungover, drunk, or sleeping. I even failed at suicide. One night, I loaded up my rifle, sat it on the ground, and pointed it at my head and stared. At the end of my rifle's barrel, all I could see was my mom. I imagined her at my funeral. I remember the gaze of my dead friend's mom at his funeral, and I stopped. At some point, I just got really sick of feeling like shit, so I started writing. I started to blog and wrote like a madman. I needed to make meaning of my own story. I needed to reconcile who I was then with who I am now. I had to shape the past so I could move forward. I wanted to learn and grow in this craft. But finally out of the Marines after 6 years, I didn't have money for school. I know it's hard to believe. When I got out in June 2007, even though I was a 2-time combat veteran, I didn't qualify for the post-9/11 GI Bill because that legislation hadn't been passed yet. But I did my research. I found out that the Connecticut State University system, regardless of state of origin, offered free tuition for service members of overseas conflicts. Despite a previous couple semesters of community college, because I forgot how college worked, I showed up at Central Connecticut State University in the summer of 2007, ready for school. Have you paid your enrollment fee? What classes are you expecting to get into? What's your major? We have no record of you applying and being accepted. So we'll let you in, but like, you're not going to matriculate or be full time. Damn. I thought, while noticing a flyer for needing resident assistance that fall. I can do that. Being responsible for a lot of not smart, drunk, risk careless 18-year-olds? That sounds like being an NCO in the Marine Corps. As a bonus, I reasoned if I did get hired as a RA, they would have to let me be a full-time student. I definitely cheated my way into CCSU, I'm proud to report. After a debacle involving administration, I wound up in front of the VP of admissions who told me, I know what you did and how you did it. We're going to accept you as a student here, but as an RA, we're going to put you in the worst building with the worst students. Whatever, bro. Those are my peeps. People laugh, but being a resident assistant in a very raucous freshman dorm is the best leadership training I've ever had. In the Marine Corps, when you tell somebody to do something, they run, yell, yes, corporal, and go do it. When 18-year-olds have had a couple of Keystone Lights on a Thursday night, they will rip down your things and not care and yell obscenities at you when you point out that bad behavior. All right, fine, I need to learn how to interact with people differently. That's me at CCSU. I'm out of the Marines, I grew the mop top back. It didn't really work. But most importantly, I learned through the higher educational experience of being a resident assistant that the thing I thought I was gonna miss from the Marine Corps, the teamwork, the thing that I think I can say for every veteran here, we understand despite the hardships of the service, we love the people, the camaraderie, the sense of duty. I was able to find that working with students and having an impact on their lives. And that meant a lot to me in my transition. While at Central Connecticut State University, I decided to pursue writing as a serious craft. Another professor introduced me to my eventual mentor, a woman named Mary Collins, who asked to see some of my writing. A few days after reading it, she said, Dario, your writing is egotistical, myopic, and I don't think you have a commercial product. Shit. So I showed up to her class the next semester. What are you doing here? She asked on day one. You know better, teach me. Mary Collins, a notoriously savage editor, took me under her wing. She taught me the difference between an interesting story and a publishable one, and she helped me process my experiences on the next level, never judging and always caring and understanding, especially as her mom was a very badass World War II veteran. Graduating with my bachelor's degree during the Great Recession was a very anxious time. Mary Collins encouraged me to apply for my master's in creative writing at Johns Hopkins, where she had come from. I'm 100% certain she put in a good word for me. She's the only way I got in. I was finally able to use my GI Bill. At Hopkins, shortly thereafter, I met a retired soldier who had the idea to take what we were learning in class and give it back as a service. Help others own their stories because either you control your story or your story controls you. Our work with the resulting nonprofit, the Veterans Writing Project, has taken us everywhere, including teaching writing as part of an expressive arts therapy program at Walter Reed to thousands of wounded warriors. A Navy SEAL once told me, now that I have writing in my life, I don't want to put a bullet in my brain anymore. I feel you, friend. When I look back on my time in the Marines, I'm filled with a mixture of pride, embarrassment, and shame. Shame for my role in volunteering to be a part of the war that didn't make America or the world safer. Embarrassment to be a living figurehead of the consequences of war that on a human level have been devastatingly brutal. Pride, because I do believe the vast majority of us who served over there did the best we could to help support freedom for all Iraqis. I live with this every day. It motivates me to do better and be better. It drives me in the honorable work of supporting veterans and their families in higher education and non-college degree programs. Building off my experiences, I was a well-published writer on military matters, in student affairs, being a Marine veteran, and longtime adjunct faculty, I looked into, accidentally found myself into my current role as the director of the Military and Veterans Center at Towson University, where I operationalize our belief statement that all student veterans and their family members should get outstanding support and services at Towson University from applicant to alumni. I never meant to be a professional veteran, but I'm so immensely humbled by the platform and impact that this role allows me and our team. Almost everybody here at Aveco, I imagine, certifies the GI Bill as part of their work. I think we all get caught up in the process, the regulation, the bureaucracy, that we sometimes forget what offering our student veterans an opportunity to be in college really means in the first place. You've heard my story now, and it's not the typical one of the traditionally college-age military transfer students in our halls today. However, all of our veterans are coming from a likely life-changing and singularly influencing experience that in many ways will define them for forever. And many of them are struggling in their transition. They're wondering, with incredible anxiety, just what the heck is next? You are the spearheads of whatever that experience will be for them. Will you flippantly or in a perfunctory way process their benefits? Or will you take a moment to consider them and their holistic experiences? Knowing how much they need someone to simply give a damn about them and how easy that actually is. My experience as a college student literally transformed and changed my life as I rediscovered a new purpose and healed. As a veteran who's forever imbued with survivor's guilt and moral injury, I hang my hat on what I'm able to do for those behind me, the student veterans of today. We can and should do good for those behind us. They need the same, regardless of combat experience or not. None of us get paid enough. The VA bureaucracy is so confusing and infuriating at times. Some military affiliated students, I can say as a veteran, are jerks. But no one will be in a better position to make a transformative impact in these veterans' lives in such a critical time. I want you to take a moment with each student, no matter how you might feel about this work, for whatever reason, to consider that. When I've talked today about expectations and adapting and unforeseen challenges, these are things we all deal with, even if we haven't been to war. Within that framework, what will you do for our student veterans and their families who need to come to you? That impact will resonate beyond anything you can imagine if you simply take a moment to consider their story and care. I thank you so much in advance for doing so. Truly, you don't think of yourself as heroes, but I guarantee most of your vets don't either. But this is who you are to them in some small way as a school certifying official. This is who you are to me and to them.